This video is about SOL 8.9 B and C, which is basically about how to search for the right resources, how to do internet searches with the best keywords, what type of sources you would use, things like that. So we're going to kind of run through this test, quote unquote, but not as a test. Alright, so the question here is, which keywords would a student use for an internet search about the mistreatment of animals in circuses, zoos, and movies? And they're asking you to find 3 keywords. So my suggestion is you break down each of the things. You could literally search for mistreatment of animals in circuses, zoos, and movies, but then you have all these other words. So you need another word for mistreatment. You need another word for animals. You need a word for circuses, zoos, and movies. So from these right here, you're going to select 3 best things. So you wouldn't want to say like animals and wildlife and dogs. You want to find words that are synonyms for each of these and kind of put it all together. So this is question number 1. Question number 2 says study the resource and the answers that go with it. So this is polar bears, the bears of the sea, this selection here. For what we're doing, you don't really need to read the whole selection. Click on the words that Gabe should type in an online search engine to find out more information about other types of animals that live near polar bears. So other types of animals that live near polar bears. Should he select Arctic, hunting, grizzly, wildlife, woodlands, and polar? If it says words, then you're probably going to have to select more than one. So what other words could he choose to find animals that live near polar bears? For question 3, they give you a new passage. You don't really need to read it necessarily for this question. So which websites would be most helpful for Carol to find information about various types of fears that people experience? Fears is another way of saying phobias. So the first website says fears and phobias, a list of the many things people worry about. This one says haunted house of fear, experience horror in our haunted house. This one says fearful kittens, cute videos of kittens getting spooked. And this one says face your fear, watch this popular television show online as good people encounter their worst fears and how they deal with them. So you want which websites would be helpful for Carol to find information about various types of fears people experience. If it says websites, you should select more than one. Okay, for the next question, you're looking at a little passage about Harriet Tubman. We don't need to read it because all we're looking for is this question. Which website will be most helpful for Emily to find information about the challenges Harriet Tubman faced during her journey to the north? Challenges she faced going north. First one says a long journey to freedom. Harriet Tubman encounters many obstacles while leading slaves to ... The second one says Harriet Tubman wanted dead or alive. After helping 300 slaves escape, Harriet Tubman became a fugitive on the ... The third one says the journey home, live free or die. Harriet Tubman, known for her strong leadership, helped many others reach the promised ... Celebrating the life of Harriet Tubman, a theatrical group will act out the journey of Harriet Tubman's life Friday night at ... And the last one said, America's journey through slavery. Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, and many other American heroes sacrificed their lives. So the question is, which website, it only says one, will be most helpful for Emily to find information about the challenges Harriet Tubman faced during her journey to the north? So you're choosing A Long Road to Freedom, Harriet Tubman Wanted Dead or Alive, The Journey Home, Celebrating the Life of Harriet Tubman, or Her Journey Through Slavery. For the next question that goes with the passage Kim's Locket, she asked them to write a narrative about a special gift she decides to write about her locket. We don't really need to read it for what we're doing. Which website would be most helpful if Kim wanted to find out the value of her locket? So, Jewelry Price Checker found out how much it's worth, the latest appraisals of jewelry of all kinds. Tony's Jewelry Store, today's hottest sales, inventory changes, so check out the daily newest styles. Organize your jewelry with an organizational system, keep your trinkets in tip-top order. Hollywood's jewelry trends, the latest fashions from the hottest stars, plus how to get the look for yourself. And Jewelry for Less, discount website filled with tons of styles for 50 to 75% off retail prices. So, which website, 1, would be most helpful if Kim wanted to find out the value of her locket? A, B, C, D, E. These last questions I need you to kind of really think about. You don't need to read a passage, so just think this through. A student wants to research the negative effects of excessive sun exposure. Which questions would not be helpful in finding reliable information? In other words, which things would not help you know if it's a good source? Does the author gain anything for sharing his or her opinion? Is the information unprejudiced and fair? Is the source from a reputable publication? Is the information found in the school's newspaper? Does the author have best-selling books? Does the same information show up in more than one source? Does the information have facts to support it? So here's what I want you to think about. Which questions would not be helpful? Which of these have nothing to do with figuring out whether a source is a good source or not? This right here is 1. Does the author have best-selling books? Who cares? This is 1. I need you to figure out the other one that would not tell you anything about whether it's a good source or not. Which one of these other than this one, so select this one, but also which other one would not really prove something as a good source. The last one's kind of the same type of thing. The students want to research information on kidney disease and find an article by a doctor in a medical journal. Which of the following questions should the student ask to determine if this is a reliable source? So you're looking for a doctor in a medical journal. Does the doctor gain anything from his views? Is the same information found in another article by another doctor? Is the article published in different languages? Is the doctor male or female? Did the doctor include facts to support the information? Does the article appear in a dependable publication? So all of these are really good ideas to look for except for 2. Which 2 would not make any difference whether this is a reliable source? One of them is this right here. What does it matter if it's published in different languages? The other one you need to find. So which one would not help you rely on a doctor in a medical journal? This is 1. What's the other? Okay, so here's another selection called Crossing the Ice, and it's kind of a narrative. If a student were interested in information on the behavior of penguins for a research paper, what would be the best source to use? An interview with a professor who studied Antarctic wildlife. A paper written by a student who has always been fascinated by penguins. A book written for young children about the antics of a baby penguin. A blog written by a zoo employee describing the diet of penguins. He's interested in the behavior of penguins. So which one would be his best source? For this question, you have an article about Marie Curie, and a student researching Marie Curie found these websites, which we'll go through. Which source has the most reliable information? Marie Curie's radioactive discoveries, presented by the Association for the Advancement of Science. Marie Curie, Mr. Tate's 8th grade class explains her contributions to science. Marie Curie Free Online Encyclopedia, read about Curie's theories in an article written and updated by online users. A self-taught scientist, I believe the reported discoveries regarding radioactivity were actually made by her husband, and she should be stripped of her Nobel Prize. So which one is your best source, your most reliable source for information about Marie Curie? We're going to call it A, B, C, and D. Last question. This is the flyer that you're asked to look at, so just kind of glance at that. If someone were looking for information on heart disease, which would have the most reliable information? A former Jump-a-thon participant, the personal blog of someone who suffers from heart disease, an encyclopedia article written by a cardiologist. Cardiologist is a heart doctor. A first-year student at a medical school who volunteers at a hospital. So if I'm looking for information on heart disease, what's my best source of information? So if this were real, you'd want to make sure none of this says not answered, and you would submit it. We are just going to see what you got, so come talk to me.